Hello, beautiful people of the internet. So today's video is going to be a request. So this was a request for me to do a mystery and makeup video, and so this is my first stab at this. And I did run this by some people that I know in person who actually like watching these types of videos, and I was like, mystery makeup, true crime videos? They're like, yeah, I love those. And I was like, yeah, but me? They're like, yeah, I love watching those. If you do those, I'll watch them. And I was like, okay. I will preface this video with saying that I am more like the type of person who likes to get a bag of chips, lay on the couch, and watch unsolved mysteries. I'm not so sure about being the narrator for unsolved mysteries. Not sure that that is my thing. I don't know. I tried that today. It was way out of my element, let me tell you. I was like super nervous about it, but we did it. Here we are. And because I have no creativity, I did title this Mystery Makeup and a Margarita, except I don't have a margarita today. If I do these in the future, I will probably make sure to have a margarita because I love those. And it just may be more fun that way for me. But I would appreciate if you're into these types of videos, if you could just watch the video to the end and then give me some like genuine feedback. Like, do you like it? Do you just not like it? Should I just scrap this idea and just keep on doing something else? Or like what? Because this was a request. It did get raving reviews for a good idea from people that I know personally. But I just need somebody's like opinion now that I've kind of threw one together, and here it is. It's out here on the internet. So to set the date, it was actually October 22nd, 1966. So this was roughly 50 years ago. So it was a Saturday night and Norma Jeanette Sims went to a football game. So Norma was your average 17-year-old girl. So she did attend this football game while her two parents, her father Robert Sims was 42 years old and he worked for the Florida Department of Education. He was married, he had a wife. She was 37 years old and her name was Helen Sims. So together they had 3 children. All 3 of them were girls. Norma Jeanette was the oldest at 17. Then they had Judith Ann, who was 15. And then the youngest was Joy Lynn at age 12. So Judith Ann, the 15-year-old, on this Saturday night was actually at a neighboring home babysitting. So at home that night was Robert, Helen, and Joy, and they were just having a casual family night. So they had the TV on, watching TV, and just enjoying, each other's company. So after the football game, Norma Jeanette came home and just kind of, wandered around the house. She did see that the TV was on in the living room, so she had expected that her parents and her sibling, who was still at home, would be there in front of the TV watching TV, which was normal for them. And so when she got into the house and realized that, nobody's in front of the TV, no one's watching TV, she, of course, as you would, go looking for them. And it wasn't until she made her way to the parents' bedroom where she found all 3. She found her father, her mother, and her youngest sister lying in the bedroom. So based off of reports, when Norma found her family lying in the bedroom, she did call the funeral home ambulance service, and basically the first thing that she said was, "Something terrible has happened, please come." So when she made that call, it ended up being the owner of the funeral home and his 16-year-old son, who went to the home essentially to investigate, I guess. So when the funeral home director, or the owner of the funeral home, and his son arrived, the father, Robert Sims, was on the bed on top of the comforters. So the bed was made, so nobody had actually laid down to sleep or anything like that. So he was laying on top of the bed that was already made, and he had been blindfolded and shot once in the head. And then lying on the floor in carpet was the mother, Helen, and she was also bound blindfolded and also shot twice in the head and once in the leg. So, and then basically diagonal of the mother was the youngest daughter, the youngest sister, Joy Lynn. So, and she was still in her nightgown, they said, and she had also been shot in the head once, but they also stabbed her 6 times in the abdomen. So pretty gruesome. So when they showed up, that's how they found the 2 parents and the youngest child. But actually, when the oldest daughter, Norma, arrived, the 2 parents were still alive, actually. The mother was actually flown to the hospital, where she actually lived for roughly a week, a little over a week after that. But unfortunately, the father and the youngest daughter did pass away before they made it to a hospital or out of the home. One of the first investigators to arrive on the scene, the actual investigator, his name was Larry Campbell, and he was young. At the time, he was 24 years old. So basically, I guess at that point, he was able to immediately rule out robbery as the motive for the murders, as there was no evidence of anything that had been moved or stolen within the home. Everything was still in its rightful place. So they had very few leads in the case because the family was such a respected family. They were very much loved in the community. They were prominent and good people. And so in efforts to try to determine the motive and identify the person who did this crazy act of violence, they did search the home multiple times. They even drained a pond like that was near their home in search of a murder weapon or any other evidence that they could find to determine who may have done this to this family. But all of these efforts turned up with nothing. They came up empty-handed. So unfortunately, this case has never been solved. They've never been able to get anybody on this or even find any evidence that points to a motive for this case. And it is basically 50 years old at this point. 50 years old, and they have opened it. They have opened it numerous times, reopened it hoping to find something, and they have yet been able to find anything. So this crime really shocked the community because 3 people in a home were murdered and there were no answers. Nobody got arrested. The little community was in fear that there was a murderer on the loose. And so that year they even canceled Halloween, like trick-or-treating and everything like that, because they were afraid that this person who committed these crimes obviously was still out there, it may strike again. So the community lived in fear for a super long time over this case, and they had very few persons of interest, suspects, but I assume that they all checked out because they never did arrest any of them for this murder. So the first person of interest, the first person that they suspected to be involved, was a high-profile member of society there, of the community. And this was a pastor at a local church, because Helen had worked for him at the church. This was Pastor C.A. Roberts, and Helen worked for him. It was at a First Baptist church, but she had actually quit her job a few days prior to the murders. And apparently the reasoning why she left her job is still a mystery to this day. Apparently nobody actually knows why she quit her job. So speculation and rumors and such run rampant. So a lot of people speculated that she may have quit her job because there were rumors or stories, tales, that the pastor was having multiple affairs with multiple women. Basically, people just assumed that she did not approve of that behavior, which who would? And so basically that she probably quit her job because of that. Like, she didn't want to be associated with that or involved with that, which makes a lot of sense. But apparently those scandals and him being a big suspect on the top of the list for this case did ultimately ruin his career. But apparently the day of the time of the murders, the pastor was actually at the football game. And apparently not only did they have a lot of people who said that they seen him there for the entirety of the game, but there was also video recording footage of him in attendance at the game. Alright, and then there were just like a few other suspects. The next in line was a young couple that lived in the same neighborhood as them. So the woman's name is Mary Charles LaJoy, and actually she was young. She was only 19 at the time. And then she also had a boyfriend. His name was Vernon Fox Jr. He was 21. So the reason I assume that they became suspects in this case was because the girl, Mary, was described as being odd, kind of weird. She is obsessed with death. And apparently she'd been caught multiple times breaking into funeral homes. The boyfriend, however, was just kind of a loner, didn't really have any friends, and supposedly he was suspected of being a peeping Tom. What a great couple. Okay. And apparently, supposedly now, you know how stories run rampant, but it could be true. Apparently this dude was also even spotted peeping on Joy Sims, the youngest daughter in the home, a week before the murders. What are people doing in this town? Oh my goodness. So basically, those were their main suspects in this case, but I guess they just couldn't tie any of these people to the actual murders. So sadly, this case is still a cold case. It's still unsolved. They have yet to be able to pin anybody to these murders, and you know, it's very unfortunate. It was also said that Mary and Vernon also lived super close to the home, that the two homes, Mary and Vernon and then the Sims family home, was 500 feet apart, And so it was just like a heavily forested, like wooded area between the two homes. So some people are speculating that if it was this dude, that maybe he slipped like through the woods between the two homes and got into the home like via the, I don't know, like behind the house, like the back door or what have you. Because there were no forced signs of entry or anything like that within the case. So for this case in particular, there is a documentary out there on the internet who I'm sure provides more details better than I do. So if you are interested in seeing probably more full details on this case presented in a different manner, I can leave the link to that documentary below. Alright guys, so that was basically the case of Robert, Helen, and Joy Sims. It is a cold, unsolved case. Hopefully this family can get justice sometime soon. They've been waiting for like 50 years. So if you, I don't even want to say if you enjoy this video because that's kind of morbid, but if these types of videos are more like your cup of tea, something you do watch on YouTube, I would appreciate some feedback and let me know what you think, and I can either scrap this idea or keep going with it. So drop them comments, let me know, and just thank you for watching. Thank you for requesting something new that I would have never done in the first place. Anyway, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.